What is up, Sixers Nation? Today we got a video for you talking about Embiid's injury and update there, plus Sixers future. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. We are, again, giving away $25 to a random sub for every 100 subscribers. So hit that sub button below, and you'll be entered into that giveaway. Shout out to Jack for winning the last one here. And you also get a little bit of added incentive here if you want to be part of our private Instagram chat for just our subscribers. Let us know about that too. Let's hop right into it here. Talking about Embiid's injury, he will be reevaluated in 7 to 10 days here. This is brought to you by Shams, who gave the reports, initially stating, Joel Embiid will be reevaluated in 7 to 10 days. He will receive treatment to address swelling in his left knee. And then, quote, retweeted that saying he participated in on-court workouts on Thursday and experienced, meaning yesterday, increased knee swelling following the session there. And this is something that's been ongoing. He's been day to day. Obviously, everyone knows he's missed a lot of games this season, but it was looking like he was nearing a return. They're about to go on a road trip here, and obviously something that, you really need your guy, Joel Embiid. And he's going to be missing the next 6 or so games here. We'll go through the schedule in just a little bit here to talk about that. But not good news. He has missed a lot of games this season. He's only played in 13 of 39 games. So if you do a little bit of quick math there, that's only 1/3 of the games this season so far for the Sixers, and that's going to continue to get even less than that, considering his injury here and how he's going to be missing at least another chunk of the season here for Joel Embiid. This is not the most opportune time for the Sixers, considering their situation and their upcoming schedule here. We got a report here from Mike O'Connor, tweeted out, if we take the Sixers' word at face value, in parentheses, that Embiid's knee was fine, but swelled up after his workouts. The fact that he didn't endure a single workout without swelling after resting for 10 plus days is an incredibly damning indication of the nature/extent of his knee issues. So it's again where he was day to day was looking like he was coming back, and then got reevaluated, and he's having this continued swelling, which is not always something that just goes away, right? Just like a snap of a finger, or with some therapy and some workout sessions and all of that. So this is certainly something that could linger. He's had just so many injuries compounded one after another. He's not getting younger. He's a big dude. So it's okay, this is not something that may be good in 7 to 10 days. And it's always been the factor that okay, the Sixers were hey, we can get away with just resting him for most of the regular season, get in the playoffs. Right now, they're not in the playoffs. They still need to get there. So it's oh shit, we need Embiid actually playing some regular season games to make the playoffs, and it's not even looking like they're going to get a whole lot out of him. In the regular season.
Yeah, we thought it'd be different with Paul George and Tyrese Maxey taking a leap, which he has actually took a step backwards, and that's a separate topic. But with Joel Embiid, man, it's been really unfortunate to see that this injury, which we figured he would be banged up throughout the season. That's how most Joel Embiid seasons go, right? And he sits time here and there. But we knew they would approach this season a little differently, going into it, taking a very cautious approach. But like Mitch said, the fact that we are down to whatever our record is, it's not great, well below 500 at this point in the season, is very concerning. And the fact that Joel Embiid's knee seems to be a chronic knee injury, like Mike O'Connor said, the fact that he took 10 days to rest and comes back, and basically the swelling is right back in his knee, is frightening to see, because this is an MVP caliber player. Let's not forget what he did last year and the numbers that he put up, and just to kind of see the dip that this team takes when he steps off the court, it is the future is very, very uncertain, especially when you sign a max guy and Paul George in the timeline, which we'll discuss later in this video. But man, there's just some mega concerns here, and this is not a good sign that we go week by week by week with this guy missing time. You can't afford it.
Yeah, and it's always the most classic Embiid injuries, right? It's just nothing okay, he broke his wrist, he's out 6 to 8 weeks, where it's okay,
right.
At that 6 to 8 weeks, he's coming back and he's going to be good to go 100%. And he just gets hurt in the craziest ways. This is from Kyle Newbeck here. This is dating back to back on Christmas.
Right.
He sprained his foot falling over security rope on Christmas, played in 4 more games, and only missed a back-to-back on the rest of the road trip, and has now been out a week and a half with what has been deemed a day-to-day issue. So this is something that dates back to Christmas time. like I said, this is compounded issues. This is not his first injury or anything like that. So like something as small as a sprained foot seems fine. But then now he has like knee issues, which again has been ongoing. It's just always something with Joel Embiid, and something as silly as falling from security rope on Christmas is sad and hysterical at the same time. It's just not good. And Embiid, not putting up the greatest stats this season, even in like the 13 games that he's played in. We wanted to just kind of show this year.
Yeah.
Big drop off in his stats. This year he's averaging 24.4 points per game, 7.9 rebounds, 3.8 assists, shooting 45.2% from the field, compared to last season where he was averaging more than 10 points per game, 34.7 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, 5.6 assists per game, and shot a much better, much more efficient, 52.9% from the field. Like almost any metric you look at, like even his 3-point percentage, we didn't put on here, but he was shooting around 38% last year. In the 13 games he's played this year, 32%, like a huge drop off there. So even in the games that he has played, he hasn't looked 100%, has not been his normal self,
right?
Where he is an easy 30 points per game bucket kind of guy. 24.4, which is amazing for a lot of guys in the NBA, is not up to par with, MVP Joel Embiid, who we've been used to these last few seasons. So it's one of those things too, like even when he comes back, it's like, okay, it's not like a guarantee where they're going to even win those games.
Right. And that's what I was going to say, what your point was exactly 24 points per game for a lot of guys that's a good score in the NBA. You're an efficient typically and a pretty effective scorer there, on the floor. But for Joel Embiid, let's just point out 34.7 is insane. Yeah. I mean, he was having a fantastic year last year, of course. Ended with injury and came back in the playoffs injured, as he
only played 39 games.
Right, as he always does. So. But Embiid had some dominant games. And unfortunately, as most people that have ever picked up a basketball or watched the sport, it's a rhythm sport. It takes time, especially coming back from injury. You're not going to be a 30-point per game guy like you typically are day one back from injury. There's typically you ramp up when it comes to the minutes, and also just naturally you're still healing from your injury. It's hard to get back exactly to 100% and be the same guy, and you're starting to see Embiid and it take a toll on him, right? He's not putting up the same numbers or shooting with the same efficiency. So it hurts there. But at the same time, we need the big fella out there on both ends, just defensively, offensively, what he provides. Just his physical presence out there is a huge thing, and it's showing in the record. It just is.
Yeah, and this is a record that's not looking like it's going to get much better in the near future here. Let's talk about the Sixers' upcoming schedule here. They are at Indiana tomorrow night, and then they have back-to-back against Milwaukee, and then they travel to Denver. So 3 really tough games there, and then they return home against the best team in the East, record-wise, the Cleveland Cavaliers on Friday, and then they go to Chicago, which is one of the only bad teams in terms of record coming up here, but that's a back-to-back, which is never easy. And then LA, Sacramento, Denver, Boston, Dallas, Miami. I mean, these are all playoff teams, finals contenders.
Yep.
Really good teams, and they're going to have to go through a lot of these games. 7 to 10 days here kind of brings you around like the Sacramento game. So he's going to miss at least the next 6 games here, potentially more, depending on, what happens with his knee, right? Like Michael Connor said in his tweet there, 7 to 10 days doesn't mean 7, actually that. It could mean 3 weeks. It could mean you get shut down for the season. Who knows? We'll certainly update you on that as we get more information here. Because again, the original, back when Christmas, when this happened, everything like that, and he missed a few games, it looked like this is something where he'd be coming back soon, and that got pushed 7 to 10 days there. So who knows what happens after that? And if they keep racking up some losses, they could very well find themselves in a situation where it makes more sense for the Sixers to start tanking.
Have you ever heard of a tank, Sixers fans? Have you ever heard of a tank? I know it's a brand new concept. We have no idea what that is. It's not like we experienced that for the past 5 to 7 years. No idea what that is. Even longer, actually.
Yeah, it's not like Joel Embiid's nickname is the process.
Right.
So this is actually one of the pieces of that we wanted to hit on today is, should the Sixers tank it? I can't believe we're getting to this point. I've
shame.
Always opponent of, hey, let's go for it. Let's contend. Even as bad as the record has gotten, they're 9 games below 500. It's like they have the guys to win this, but it's looking very much like Embiid's going to miss a lot more games this season, and they haven't really shown that they can win without him. And they're sitting at right now. They do have their top 6 protected pick with OKC. They own the pick, but if it ends up being a top 6 pick, the Sixers will be able to keep that, which would be a very coveted pick there. We wanted to show you here. This is from Tankathon to kind of go through like different odds of getting the top pick because it's not guaranteed, right? You have the lottery in the NBA, so it's not like the NFL where like okay, you just lose all your games, and as long as you have more loss than the other team, you're guaranteed that certain pick or top pick there. So this is a breakdown. This is like actually a current breakdown of the odds here. Sixers are sitting at 8. Again, they're not in the playoffs right now, so they are sitting at like the 8th worst record in the NBA. And these are kind of their odds there, which for getting a top 6 pick, so they couldn't even get 5 or 6. How would be they could get a 1 through 4, where they have a 6% chance at 1, 6.3% chance at 2, 6.7 at 3, 7.2 at 4, and there's drop off. And then there again, they're most likely going to get. And you see the OKC logo popping up here. There's a much better chance of them getting 8 or 9 or 10, which in that case they lose that pick to the Thunder. So you want to crawl up here. Obviously as you crawl higher and higher, you have a higher chance of getting a top 6 pick. One thing to note here is the only 2 picks that they can get where they are guaranteed a top 6 pick is 1 and 2, right? Number 1, you're guaranteed a top 5 pick. Number 2, you're guaranteed a top 6 pick. But once you get lower than that, like Charlotte right now, they could end up with a 7 pick, even though they're the 3rd worst team in the NBA.
But you never know.
There's a low chance, 7%, but that's still a chance there.
Yeah.
Toronto, all these teams. So if you want to guarantee you're getting a top 6 pick and not have the NBA stick their hand in the Sixers like they do so well, just seems like they could screw the Sixers out of the pick. So if they want to put that into no chance, they have to be one of the worst 2 teams in the league. And there's some really bad teams in the NBA here. We could take a look at the NBA standings to kind of go through that. But again, this is what you're looking at right now. They're looking at, they're in the lottery right now. They certainly have a decent shot here at one of the top 4 picks, but it would be more like that. And the worst thing you want to have happen is, you miss the playoffs and you lose your pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? You want to pick one or the other. You want to be in the purgatory, the Chicago Bulls, which are sitting right below us, who are always like, they never get a top pick. They never make the playoffs. Even if they do, they're out first rounds.
It's tough. You got to move up. I mean, either you got to send that. That's the question. Should the Sixers tank? You either have to full tank, and do they start to sit guys? And does Maxey all of a sudden go out with personal reasons, or is he resting, or whatever the case may be? Is Paul George, back in LA vacationing in mid February? Who knows? Yeah. So that's the big question here. I mean, we're going to take a look at the standings, but it's a really tough question to answer. It really is, and it's I don't know what they do. I mean, they're going to play their guys. Tyrese Maxey, I feel like he's too competitive not to play, right? Like they're not going to be like, hey, sit. I mean, they have to play these. They have to play these dudes. But it might not translate to wins anyway. So they're not winning now. Why would they start winning next week?
Yeah. So this is this year's standings. We're going to actually show 2 more screens after this that go through previous years, just so we can compare and contrast to this season in terms of like how many wins or how many losses you would need to get one of these top picks and finish as like bottom in the league. So again, they currently sit at 15 and 24. They are right now placed at the 11 seed, right outside of the play-in. The Bulls, the 10 seed. Right. They're 2 games back of that. And then if they want to play themselves out of the play-in and get a top 6 seed, they are currently 6.5 games back of that. So certainly doable still, right? It's not like the Sixers are, red alarm. They need to tank, or else like they're going to miss the playoffs and not get a top pick here. So there's certainly a chance, but with this tough schedule up here and be missing a lot of games. Paul George missed his own games and everything like that. Other Sixers players missed a lot of games, which has resulted in a lot of these losses. There's no guarantee that they can really, get into the play. And even if they do, are they going to really make any noise in the playoffs? It's not looking very likely. Compared to other seasons too.
Yeah.
So you got teams like below them, the Nets, the Raptors, Hornets, and the Wizards in the East. And we can look at as a league too. This is overall league again. Sixers are the 8th worst team in the league, but you got some abysmal teams here at the bottom. The Wizards, 6 wins. They have not even. They're the outside of the other Hornets here at 9 wins. The only 2 teams that have not hit 10. The only reason they're ahead of it is because they've played 3 less games here or 4 less games. The New Orleans Pelicans, which is kind of crazy. But they're sitting right now. Let's see here, 9 games ahead of the Washington Wizards, and we can look through here too. Some of these previous years. Let's start with we can start with like last year's standings, just to kind of look at where they would need to fall. It's not a proven science, right? Because every year is different. But this is last year's standings for the league. The worst team in the NBA had 14 wins, which they are already past, right? They're 15 and 24 right now, and the second worst team at 15 wins. And like I said, if you want to guarantee your chance of getting a top 6 pick and keeping your pick, you need to be one of those bottom 2 teams there. So based off last year alone, they would have to literally lose out every single one of their last games here, which is pretty much impossible, right? Even if they do sit all their guys, you're gonna pick up some wins here. And then if we look at 2 years ago here, this is going to be like the 22-23 regular season to talk about those bottom teams. You got 17 and 22. All right, so like 22 wins. Okay, that means Sixers can pick up 7, 8 more wins. Each season is again going to be different here. But you look back at the current standings, the Wizards have 6 wins, and the Hornets have 9 wins on the season. They'll certainly pick up a few more here and there. But like if you want to get one of those top 2, you're going to be like 15 and 20. Right. And then if you want to be like one of the bottom 5-ish teams, you're going to want to win less than 30 games.
Let's remember who got Wembanyama that year as well. Let's remember they were not the worst record. They were not. That was the Pistons at 17 wins. So, they still had very high odds, right? But they got a generational prospect. And I'm blanking who the Pistons got. Not a generational prospect. They get a top pick every year. And then the year before,
they ended up with 5.
They dropped back to 5, correct?
They
right. So that worst record dropped to 5. So you really never know. And that's the difference between, we're talking about tanking, who are the 2 main prospects. So there's a couple this year, but you're talking about Cooper Flagg is the number 1 prospect coming out this year. Dylan Harper's another big name. Ace Bailey. There's a couple big guys that are out there. This is a pretty coveted draft, but once again, it's top tier talent in the NBA. So if you're going to tank, you have to really, really tank and at least give yourself the best chance at getting a top prospect. But the Sixers and their timeline, unfortunately, contradicts everything that we're looking at right now because you sign a max guy in Paul George, who's 34 years old. You have a guy in Joel Embiid who's in the quote-unquote prime of his career despite injuries at 30 years old. So what we're looking at is something that I really did not think we'd even look at or worry about at all.
Contemplate or anything.
But
it's a question that
it's unfortunate. And
not the first time we've even brought up the question. And sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're right.
Not something I really ever really put much thought to.
And I don't think we're fully there. Sixers fans like to overreact. It really, you're right. It really comes down to the next few weeks are going to be very telling. That's 10 days to be, but does he come back? 10 days, that's 10 days to buy time to get him still more recovery to push it out another week because we've seen that before. We've seen the Sixers and then the NBA, they pull out all the stops, especially for this guy. And we love Embiid, but the reality is he has not been on the court. And this is the least he's played so far in his career besides the year that he basically missed or the 2 years he missed fully. I mean, he's played 13 games, a third of the game so far through, and we're only halfway there. And it's just – and if he's on the court, we see the numbers, we see the dip, and we've seen enough to know exactly what this team is when Joel Embiid's not on the court. I love Tyrese Maxey. I think Paul George has brought some nice things to the team, but he hasn't been exactly what we expect. I think all Sixers fans can agree on that. And unfortunately, if you're not going to be a high-level competing team, then you're kind of stuck in this middle-of-the-road spot where we're looking at right now the end. I mean, seriously, they look like a classic 10-11 seed. They just do.
Yeah, and at that point, you're in no man's land.
Yeah.
Even if they did have their pick still, right, and that wouldn't go to the Thunder. Like you're looking at you look at 10th pick, which is great. That's not a surefire, guy at that point. But no, we'll see over these, like you said, over the next few weeks here. You got a February 6th trade deadline coming up, which for up until now, I was like, okay, bye. I'm thinking, hey, they're gonna get a playmaker, they're gonna get a shooter, they're gonna get a stretch, whatever it may be. But they end up being sellers here, depending on how these next few games roll, and they want to start, tanking here. I'm not saying they're going to trade Paul George or Max or anything like that, but they could certainly be trading some of these other potential pieces that they have to stack up assets, considering their current situation with the team. And we'll certainly come out with videos too about that. Maybe we'll do a little bit of both buyers, or what they could do as buyers, what they could do as sellers. So stay tuned for that video. But let us know below too, like kind of your thoughts and comments if the Sixers should tank and their situation here. Certainly not a good one. But hang in there, Sixers fan. I know a lot of you are already checking out here, and the Birds game coming up this weekend. So certainly there. But you got to stay positive in these times, and they're not a dead team yet.
Next video, they might be dead. Who knows? Depending on when we record that, so they might be dead completely.
Right now, they are still alive
at the moment.
And well, so no, but appreciate you all listening into this. Hit that like and subscribe button below. Again, giving away $25 to a random sub for every 100 subscribers, and check out to our private chat if you are interested in that. Thank you for watching, and as always, Go Sixers.
Go Sixers.
Birds this weekend.
Go Birds too, baby.
Cheers, baby.
Cheers.